And good evening. We come on the air tonight with breaking news out of the Middle East. Nearly 2 years ago, Hamas launched that brutal and deadly terror attack on Israel, leading to a war that jumped borders and destroyed cities and families and lives. But tonight, a potential sign this could be the beginning of the end. Hamas, for the first time, announcing they are willing to release Israeli hostages, saying in a statement they will release all Israeli prisoners, both living and dead, and agree to hand over political control of the Gaza Strip. Hamas going on to say that they have readiness to immediately enter into negotiations. This letter, of course, in response to a 20-point peace plan unveiled by President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. But we don't know yet if Hamas will agree to all the details. President Trump seemingly hopeful on social media, saying in part, "I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza." Today's news coming as hostage families wait in agony for news of their loved ones, and as the death toll in Gaza rises to more than 60,000, according to Gaza's health ministry. In a moment, we will speak to a family member of an Israeli hostage. But first, we start with NBC's chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, who has been following it all and joins us tonight. Richard, walk us through what Hamas has agreed to.
Well, Tom, in many ways, this is a surrender by Hamas. Hamas agreed to the main points of President Trump's peace plan, saying that it would give up the hostages, that it would hand over hostages. They're believed to be 48 that held by Hamas, 20 of them presumed to be alive, and that it would no longer govern the Gaza Strip, that it will hand over power to a body of Palestinian technocrats, apolitical members, a committee that has still yet to be formed. This is a key development. These were Israel's key demands from the beginning, that Hamas no longer run the Gaza Strip and that the hostages be returned. But there are other points, however, that were left unclear. President Trump put forward this 20-point plan, and Hamas said that it wants to negotiate the details about exactly who will run Gaza, when Israeli troops will withdraw. But in general, this was Hamas accepting President Trump's deal after an enormous amount of pressure. The Arab states, neighboring Arab states, Muslim-majority states had already accepted this deal. And if Hamas had rejected it outright, it would have been blamed, I think, for continuing the war, especially after President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel said that if Hamas had rejected the deal, the war would only intensify.
Richard, my producers are telling me right now that we've gotten some new sound just in from the president. Let's roll that for our viewers.
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others. So many people fought so hard. This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down and concrete.
President Trump there was trying to see what he was wearing on his lapel. I know one of the pins was an American flag. Richard, it sounds like a victory lap. We know these things are very, very complicated. This could be a huge, major positive victory for the president if this all works out, but it's still very early. What's the next step, do we know?
Well, the next step is the release of the hostages. And Hamas has said that it is logistically impossible for them to release the hostages over the next 72 hours, but that they want to release the hostages. They want to hand over the remains of the hostages who were killed. And President Trump called on Israel to immediately stop attacks so that the hostages together, gather the remains, and hand them over. Previous ceasefires have taken several days for Hamas to gather the hostages, to hand them over to the Red Cross. So there are some logistics that do need to be worked out. But the principle is there, and you saw President Trump thanking the Arab mediators, thanking Qatar in particular. And I don't think this could have happened unless Hamas was under the kind of diplomatic pressure that it was facing over the last several days, when all of its key allies said that Hamas must take this deal.
Angle for us tonight. Richard, we thank you for that. I want to bring in Alana Zaitchik. Her cousins and their families were taken hostage by Hamas back on October 7th. They have all since been released except for her cousin's husband, David Cunha, who's still being held hostage right now. I want to remind our viewers, Alana may look very familiar. She has joined Top Story several times since 2023. Alana, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know this is a very sort of important and I hope a day that leads to something better for your family. It has been more than 700 days since David was taken hostage. Do you have any idea of how he's doing tonight?
We don't know. We know that he's alive, and we know that that's important, but we don't really have very much information since really early this year, since about February. He wasn't really in great spirits, obviously, or condition then, and we don't know where he is today, but we know he needs to come home.
I can't believe it's been almost 2 years, right, since you and I first met and we first talked about this and that horrific terror attack that happened to those Israelis who were just trying to live their lives. What's your reaction to this announcement? Do you believe that Hamas has essentially surrendered and that they will release these hostages?
I am cautious here. I don't trust them for obviously good reason. And I do believe that they will release the hostages at some point, and I'm hoping that that is sooner than later and that this actually comes to fruition. But some of their kind of counterpoints are problematic, I think, for the Israeli government, and that concerns me because really we're navigating between these two powers, and so I'm being really cautious. We've had way too many failed deals, too many deals torpedoed by both sides that, you know, we're just frustrated and we just want to see him back home on Israeli soil.
Alana, did you ever think we would be here 2 years later? I mean, I know you never sort of can prepare or understand why these things happen or know how they're going to end. But it is sort of astonishing to believe 2 years later and your loved one is still somewhere, probably in a tunnel in Gaza, being held by these terrorists.
No, I never imagined it. I really didn't. I thought at the end of 2023, when my cousins and their kids came back, I really thought, okay, get us to the new year. And soon in the new year, we'll have another deal and we'll keep this moving and it will continue. And really not in my worst nightmare would we be here still 2 years later.
2 years later, and also so much war, right? A war that has devastated Gaza, a war that has, like I said earlier, jumped borders to Iran, into Lebanon. It is also sort of astonishing that one terror attack, all that killing, led to all this. And you know, like I said, tonight we're hopeful this may lead to change, but it's still unclear.
It is unclear, and the reality is, a lot of people, my family included, have suffered and lives have been destroyed over this for 2 years now. So many people are living in agony, and the people of the region, Israelis and Palestinians, they want to live safely and securely in their home. And the only potential silver lining that could come from this that our leaders have to focus on is a regional peace agreement that will really create genuine security and a path forward for everyone and hope for everyone in the region, because otherwise, honestly, what did they take us through 2 years of this for?
Alana Zaitchik, again, I'll be thinking about your family tonight. I really pray and hope there's some sort of good news for you and your family in the coming days. We thank you for joining us tonight.
I appreciate it.
We're also following late-breaking news tonight back here at home. Sean Diddy Combs sentenced to 4 years in prison following his conviction on prostitution charges over the summer. In court today, Combs begged the judge for mercy. NBC's Chloe Malas was there.
Tonight, a judge telling Sean Diddy Combs he abused his power and control with women he professed to love and must serve a substantial sentence, handing him 4 years in federal prison. The judge said he considered Combs' family and career, but was not assured these crimes will not be committed again. Earlier, Combs pled with the judge for leniency. "I beg your honor for mercy," he said, "to be a father again, to be a son again, and be a leader in my community again." He apologized to his former girlfriends and said he took full accountability and responsibility for his actions. Combs sobbed as he turned to his mother and said, "You raised me better." What did you make of today's sentencing?
It was very painful. I was truly hoping for Sean to be coming home to his family. It was very disappointing.
Today's sentencing comes 3 months after Combs was convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering. Combs' lawyers had asked the judge for a lighter sentence, 14 months, arguing today he is clear-headed, drug-free, determined, focused, and remorseful. Combs' PR team producing this 11-minute video played in court today.
Put everything you can into your work,
emphasizing his charity work and role as a father. The judge also heard emotional statements from Combs' 6 kids, who said he's a changed man. The music mogul breaking down, holding his head in his hands as they spoke. Prosecutors had asked the judge for a stiffer sentence, 11 years, arguing this is not a person who has accepted responsibility. They asked the judge to consider letters written by victims. Prosecutors also told the judge that Combs had speaking engagements lined up beginning next week in Miami, which they called the height of hubris. The defense pushing back, calling them teaching events for prisoners. Tonight, the judge telling Combs, this is hard time in prison, away from your family, but you will have a life afterwards.
Chloe Malas joins us tonight from outside that court. Chloe, take our viewers inside the courtroom. What did Combs do after he was sentenced? And then do we know if he's going to get time served on that 4-year plus 2 month sentence?
Yeah, exactly, Tom. Well, he was very stoic as the judge handed down the sentence. But at one point, when it was all over, he turned around to look at his 6 kids, his mom. He put his hand on his heart and he said, I love you. I'm sorry. I'll be okay. And then he was whisked away by the prison guards. Here's the thing. He is going to get time served, Tom. So a little over a year is what he has served at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, which means he's looking at just over 3 years in federal prison. But in the federal prison system, if you are good behind bars and good behavior, you get slightly less. So he could see a little less than 3 years in prison. But we just heard from his attorneys tonight that they do plan to appeal. Tom?
All right, Chloe Malas been covering this case from the get-go. Chloe, thank you. For more, I want to bring in our legal panel tonight. Kristen Gibbons-Fedden, she's a former prosecutor who worked on the legal team that prosecuted Bill Cosby. And Jeremy Saline, he's a criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan prosecutor. Jeremy, I want to start with you. What happened during the sentencing? You know, we saw this video that the Combs defense team put out. It shows Combs in that 11-minute video. You know, it's almost a documentary, if you will, showing him as a family man, trying to portray him as a family man, playing with his little kids, giving inspirational speeches. Do you think this did anything for the judge?
You know, in that moment, they had to take that risk because of his exposure, and you're going to go for it all, and they did a great job at the trial in terms of getting the results they did. But ultimately, it worked out well, and it worked out right. I was concerned when I was listening to that video because I could see a judge saying, that's great that you're a good father, but you stole the youth of these other women when you brought them across state lines, not necessarily for the trafficking, but for those wrongdoings in terms of that commercial sex act. You want to win the trophy of being a good person, and you're talking about how you want to be and get into heaven. Yet you did these horrible things that you're admitting to. For example, the assault of Cassie, even if it was not part of the actual elements of the crime. Big risk, big reward.
I want to talk to you, Kristen, about sort of the revelations, if you will, that he had these speaking engagements, and they called it hubris. You know, the defense saying that it was going to be talking to prisoners or something. Like, they were trying to make it look a little different. Was this a boneheaded move on their part? How do you interpret that?
I think it was absolutely a boneheaded move on their part. It was revealed in the sentencing memorandum in one of the one of the character statements on behalf of Diddy, just show that he was out there and he's going to, do things in a rehabilitative fashion to show others, that they should not engage in any wrongdoing. But here's the thing: when you have speaking engagements starting Monday, going all through October, it absolutely is an expression of excessive pride because you think you're getting time served and you're getting out. And so I think it's a bad luck for the judge because essentially you're telling the judge, I'm getting out. I know I'm getting out. It's not your decision. It's mine.
Jeremy, so he gets 4 years plus 2 months. He's got time served. How much do you think he's actually in prison?
You're going to take a lot off of that because in the system, you're going to do roughly 85% or 6/7, assuming everything goes well. So let's knock us down to 42, 43 months. On top of that, towards the end of his sentence, he's eligible and will, barring something really going sideways, end up finding himself in a halfway house or the equivalent of that for anywhere between 3 months to 12 months. So now take that off. And even while you're in a halfway house, you can get home confinement for a period of time. So his real exposure in terms of being incarcerated, you're talking potentially less than 20 months when you throw in his time served, which again is a lot but a huge win for what he was facing.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think the judge, Kristen, was lenient on him?
I think the judge was fair, honestly. I think that when you look at the fact that the judge considered that they were vulnerable survivors, the fact that the judge also said that there was coercion within these crimes, the conduct was not voluntary. I think that that showed that the judge really understood. This is the judge who sat throughout the trial, sat through Cassie's testimony, sat through James' testimony. And so I think that even though it was lower than what the probation recommended, it was way higher and than what the defense wanted, obviously. But I think it was fair, and the fact that the judge acknowledged the victims and the survivors was important.
Jeremy, before we go, we only got about 10 seconds here. Is there anything to appeal? Will he? He's going to appeal. Will he win?
He has 14 days to appeal, or pardon me, rephrase that, to file his notice to appeal. There's much on the table, but it's going to be a difficult uphill battle.
Okay, Jeremy, Kristen, great to have you guys tonight. Thanks for being here. Also breaking, the Trump administration escalating its fight against drug cartels, carrying out another U.S. strike on a boat near Venezuela. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth claiming the vessel was carrying narco traffickers and narcotics. I want to get right to NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cuby, who joins us from Washington. So, Courtney, what more have we learned about the strike?
Well, this is the fourth strike in just about a month against boats that the Trump administration says are carrying large amounts of drugs and what they are now calling narco-terrorists. In this case today, 4 individuals were killed, according to a social media post by the Secretary of Defense, bringing the total to 21 individuals killed in these 4 strikes. Now, what's striking here now is they are calling them narco-traffickers because of this notification to Congress by the Trump administration recently saying that the U.S. now sees these as designated terrorist organizations. Their actions constitute a direct attack against the United States. And essentially, Tom, the U.S. is now at war with this legal justification from the Trump administration. The reality is we are likely to see more strikes like the one you're seeing on your screen right now. Tom?
And then, Courtney, this comes as tensions have been escalating between the U.S. and Venezuela with another incident just yesterday?
Yeah, the Venezuelan government really slamming the United States for an incident that they claim occurred yesterday when 5 U.S. fighter jets didn't necessarily go into Venezuelan airspace, but they say came within about 45 or 50 miles of the Venezuelan coast. They called the incident provocative. Tom, we've been asking the Trump administration, including the Pentagon, for a statement or any kind of comment on it. So far, we haven't gotten anything back about this incident.
Courtney Cuby first. Courtney, thank you. Courtney Cuby first. Courtney, thank you. Tonight, no end in sight to the government shutdown. Now set to stretch into next week. Dueling spending plans voted down in the Senate as the Trump administration is preparing to cut billions in funding to blue states. Ryan Nobles has the latest for us from Capitol Hill.
Tonight, another vote to end the partial government shutdown fails. Democrats again blocking a Republican funding bill that would have reopened the government.
We're trying to get the Democrats to do their job, and they won't.
Democrats slamming President Trump for not being more involved.
Throughout this week, Donald Trump has been missing in action. He remains in the Presidential Witness Protection Program.
While Republicans say President Trump is the reason Democrats won't vote to end the shutdown.
What's different is who's in the White House. That's what it is about. It's all about President Trump and the Democrats needing to pick a fight to satisfy their far left political base.
Republicans still trying to find 5 more Democratic votes to pass their funding bill and reopen government. New Hampshire Democrat Jeanne Shaheen voted for a similar bill 6 months ago. Tonight, she's a no.
What's different now?
I think, as I've said all along, we ought to be able to keep the government open and address people's access to health insurance.
Democrats accusing the Trump administration of using the shutdown to cut funds to blue states. Announcing $2 billion in federal funds for an infrastructure project in Chicago were put on hold. Well, after backlash, the president today saying he's reinstating $187 million in recent cuts made to Homeland Security and counterterrorism for New York City and state. All this while reality is setting in for federal workers furloughed or working without pay. Trecca Henry works for HUD. Her husband is an air traffic controller. They're bracing for how to make ends meet.
We are going through our pocketbook, our expenses, and seeing what can we stop paying for.
But despite the consequences, both sides are dug in.
What you say to people, though, that are worried that this is a staring contest and it's the American people that are hurting?
I see it as a fight for people who are struggling to cover the costs of health care.
Ryan Nobles joins us tonight from Capitol Hill. So, Ryan, walk us through the timeline here. Do we expect any movement on this shutdown over the next few days?
No, we don't, Tom. In fact, the Senate has canceled any votes for over the weekend. And to add to all of this, Speaker Mike Johnson saying that the House will not be back in at all. So that means if there is some sort of a breakthrough and a deal, the House would have to scramble back here to Washington to vote on it. All of this leads to our conclusion that this shutdown is going to drag on for quite some time. There is really no end in sight. Tom.
Ryan Nobles for us. Ryan, we thank you. Turning back overseas to the latest developments in that deadly synagogue attack in England. Police today announcing 2 of the victims were inadvertently shot by officers trying to take down the assailant. Ralph Sanchez is there.
Tonight, new details emerging about the Manchester synagogue attack that killed 2 congregants and left Jewish communities worldwide shaken. Police say that when they opened fire on the killer, they accidentally shot 2 worshippers who were holding the synagogue doors, keeping the attacker out as he tried to smash his way in. Adrian Dalby was killed, another man seriously injured by the gunfire. All those who blocked the entrance being hailed as heroes, including by Rabbi Daniel Walker, seen here moments after the shooting, his robe stained with blood.
We're going to honor the memory of those very, very, very good men who lost their lives.
The other victim, Melvin Kravitz, killed by the attacker. This is very much still an active crime scene more than 24 hours after the attack. Police here searching for clues about the killer's methods and his motivations. Police say Jihad al-Shami was a UK citizen born in Syria and announcing he had previously been arrested for alleged rape and was on bail at the time of the incident, adding he seems to have been motivated by extreme Islamist ideology. Tonight, his family say they strongly condemn the terrorist attack and are praying for the victims.
The pain is very raw. We are still in the crisis stage. We haven't even entered the recovery stage, but we are strong and we are going to recover.
A community in grief, but still resilient. And Tom, when we spoke last night, police had arrested 3 additional people in connection with the attack. That number has now risen to 6, 3 men and 3 women. Police say they are currently in custody being questioned. They aren't giving a lot of detail about what they are alleged to have done or what relationship, if any, they had with the attacker. Tom?
All right, Ralph Sanchez, we're back in a moment with a skilled climber's tragic fall from the notorious El Capitan summit in Yosemite. A horrifying accident live streamed to his fans, how his mother is remembering him tonight. Plus, oil refinery blast, the massive explosion in Southern California, the fireball lighting up the night sky. And Prince William opens up in a remarkable and candid interview his plans to change the monarchy when he becomes king and his emotional remarks about his family's battle with cancer. Stay with us. We're back now with a heartbreaking loss in the climbing community. An up-and-coming star falling to his death while scaling Yosemite's famous El Capitan. Some who followed the 23-year-old's journey on social media say he was actually live streaming when it happened. Here's NBC's Steve Patterson.
Tonight, a family in mourning over the sudden loss of an accomplished climber and beloved son.
Some snow in my hair. It's really pretty out.
23-year-old Balin Miller, well known in the climbing community, fell to his death, his family says, after scaling Yosemite National Park's famous cliff face, El Capitan. His mother telling us she's heartbroken.
I have a moment in reprieve. You know, you go through highs and lows of crying to where you can't cry anymore, but my soul is shattered.
Details of how exactly Miller died are still unclear, but his brother Dylan says he believes his brother had finished the climb and was getting his gear when he slipped off the end of the rope.
Balin fell, doing what he loved to do.
The incident was allegedly captured on a live stream, which NBC News has not seen, but others on social media say they witnessed. The National Park Service did not respond to our inquiries about the incident, which happened the first day of the government shutdown.
It is unfathomable, the ache in your heart, and I don't know if it'll ever go away. I just love him and I miss him so much.
It is also sad. Steve joins us now. Steve, despite his age, Balin Miller was an incredibly experienced climber, correct?
Very experienced, Tom. We're talking about a young man who solo climbed in Patagonia and just recently completed an ice climb in the Canadian Rockies. So dangerous that Climbing Magazine says it was the first time someone did it in 37 years. His mom says that this incident was a simple mistake, almost like forgetting to put on your seatbelt right before an accident when it matters most. Tom.
Okay. Steve Patterson for us. Steve, we appreciate it. Just ahead, the wild pursuit caught on camera. A stabbing suspect firing at officers as he attempted to escape. How the terrifying chase came to an end. And the big announcement from Costco, the popular weight loss drugs now hitting store shelves even for those without insurance. So how much will it cost? But first, Top Story's top moment, and this one is very special. Can we hit that control room cam, please? Today, we are saying goodbye to Amnika Thompson. Oh, she didn't know this. Oh, glad you dressed for it. Amnika Thompson, a newsroom leader for Top Story. She's played an essential role building the show each and every night and has made an even bigger impact on the entire staff that love her so much. We will miss her here on Top Story, but she isn't going far, and we will continue all the good work she's done here at NBC News. We love you, Amnika. Stay with us. More Top Story coming up. We're back now with Top Story's news feed, and we're starting with the Supreme Court clearing the way for the Trump administration to take away legal protections for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan migrants. The justice is issuing an emergency order putting on hold a ruling from a lower court that found the administration wrongly ended temporary protected status for the Venezuelans. Today's decision means some could ultimately be deported as the legal battle plays out. And shocking dash cam video showing a stabbing suspect opening fire on sheriff's deputies during a high-speed chase in South Carolina. Take a listen. You can hear those gunshots hitting the windshield before the suspect speeds off. Eventually, the deputies catch up with him and slam the car off the road. They say the suspect died in the hospital from a gunshot wound. No deputies were seriously hurt. And a massive fiery explosion overnight at a Chevron oil refinery in Southern California. Look at this video from a nearby airport capturing the moment the fireball lit up the night sky. Luckily, no injuries were reported. The fire is now contained, but investigators are still trying to figure out what caused it. Chevron says the facility supplies 20% of the gas in the region, and experts believe the fire could lead to higher prices at the pump there. And some encouraging news tonight for people looking to get their hands on those popular weight loss drugs. Costco will soon start selling Ozempic and Wegovy for around $500. That's about half the price for a month's supply when paying out of pocket. But you'll still need a prescription from your doctor to get that medication. Now to our series, The Cost of Denial. Tonight, a little girl with a rare genetic disorder and her family struggle to get the specialized care she needs covered by insurance. NBC's Maggie Vespa reports.
A little more than 2 years ago, Emmy Lazone was born happy and seemingly healthy.
Hi, Barney.
But her childhood now in central Illinois, a far cry from what parents Patrick and Carrie envisioned.
It was at 2 months. Things changed. That's when she had her first seizure episode.
She was shaking, and her tongue was doing this weird, like, up and down movement, which I'd never seen before, and her eyes were rolling.
What's that like as a mom?
Very scary.
It brings it back.
Yeah, terrifying.
After months of seizures and ER visits, a diagnosis, Cardi syndrome, a neurological disorder which typically carries a shortened life expectancy.
She's going up.
Among additional diagnoses, Emmy is missing part of her brain and can't walk, talk, or hold herself up. Her complex condition requires a series of specialized tools and therapies that Carrie and Patrick say result in a never-ending fight for coverage.
Your experience with your insurer, if you had to sum it up in one word, what would that word be? Frustrating.
A firefighter and stay-at-home mom, the couple have primary health coverage through United Healthcare, which they say initially denies most claims for Emmy's care.
Like her physical and occupational therapy, it's the same claim every month. And every month they'll deny it because instead of looking at all of her diagnosis, they look at the top line and go punch it in the computer and say, nope, denied.
Time they would otherwise dedicate to their daughter, instead spent filing insurance appeals.
How many appeals on average do you have to go through monthly? For some claims, 1. For others, 4.
It's hours a week, if not more.
And every time we have to call in, it's a different claims rep we have to deal with.
To bathe without drowning, Emmy needs to be strapped into this chair. Amid the maddening fight to get one covered, Carrie says a United Healthcare rep had this suggestion.
They said that we should find a way to give her a bath. Either us getting in the bath with her or just wiping her down was sufficient enough.
The chair ultimately approved, they say, after filing for an exemption. This shaky vest, even harder to get. The vest loosens mucus and helps prevent Emmy from getting pneumonia.
They wanted her hospitalized before they would cover it.
They needed to see her hospitalized.
For pneumonia.
Carrie says it took multiple months and 3 denials before getting the vest approved.
It's incredibly frustrating. How are you guys doing?
Neurodevelopmental pediatrician Dr. Wendy Berto Hartman prescribes much of Emmy's care and equipment and says the battle baffles her own staff.
We're not asking for things that are out of the routine or out of the normal, the standard of care for kids who have these kind of disabilities.
NBC News reached out to United Healthcare about the family's frustration. The company responding, "We empathize with anyone caring for a loved one with complex medical needs," adding it has now provided a dedicated case manager who is familiar with Emma Lynn's needs and can help support the family going forward. The insurer saying it's also looking into outstanding requests, including a special bed and speech therapy. Emmy's parents just hoping the process gets easier.
Waging these insurance battles, do you feel like that's time lost with your daughter?
Yeah, 100%. We wouldn't fight for this if it didn't make a difference for her quality of life.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Manitou, Illinois.
Our thanks to Maggie Vespa and her team for that story. In Global Watch tonight, across multiple continents, a new generation is taking to the streets. Gen Z protesters who say they're fed up with corrupt governments and broken promises, organizing online and voicing their anger from Africa to South America. Some protesters clashing violently with police, with multiple protests turning deadly. NBC's Valerie Castro reports.
From Madagascar to Nepal to Peru. Gen Z protests erupting in pockets around the globe in recent months. Though the individual causes vary, they share a common thread. Protesters in their teens and 20s angry at the state of their countries, organizing on social media and taking to the streets.
These are the digital natives. The generation obviously is very, very comfortable organizing on social media. It's their natural medium for expressing themselves.
In Madagascar, what began as anger over water shortages and power blackouts has morphed into a national movement. At least one Madagascar protester saying they were inspired by what they saw online in Nepal. Another student protester saying the whole population can't take it anymore. We are here because we suffer. Our family suffers. Everybody suffers.
When people see something successfully happening in another country where people my age, so these are young people who see these protests on social media almost instantaneously, right? And they think, well, if they can, why can't we?
Despite the president of Madagascar dissolving the government Monday, demonstrators continue demanding his resignation. At least 22 people have been killed and more than 100 injured, according to the UN. In Morocco, protests also turning deadly, authorities saying 2 people were killed in clashes Wednesday, as the country's youth accuse leaders of prioritizing funds for the 2030 World Cup instead of needs like schools and health care. Last month, demonstrators in Nepal against corruption, nepotism, and a nationwide ban on social media, setting fire to the parliament building. A Gen Z representative saying, "We have unanimously recommended the interim prime minister to form the functioning government." Popping up in protests around the world, a form of the Jolly Roger flag. Originally from the best-selling Japanese comic and anime series One Piece, the flag now a symbol of Gen Z defiance. From France, the Philippines, Indonesia, Peru, Argentina, and even in Madagascar, as youth movements pop up in different corners of the world, governments might need to rethink how they respond to a generation that demands change. In Madagascar, protesters suspended their demonstrations in the capital for 24 hours yesterday over concerns of the health and safety of those involved, but the rallies continued throughout the rest of the country. Tom?
Valerie Castro for us. Valerie, thank you. That does it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.